Chicano Rap Radio. Raw and uncut.
Cubo, and welcome to another episode of Chicano Rap Radio. We got the homeboy Ese Daz, originally of Spanish Fly, in the house today. So without further ado, let's welcome the homeboy to the show. How you doing today, G?
I'm doing good, brother, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, man.
It's a pleasure to have you. Definitely looking forward to this interview. I appreciate you making the time to join us. Just wanted to just backtrack a little bit and give some of the listeners a little background information on who you are, where you're from, and how you got started in the music. So we could start off with that. That would be great.
Yeah, for sure, man. My name is David Arellano Zamora. I go by Ese Daz, the Spanish Fly. I grew up in the Harbor area. Grew up in Wilmington, then moved to Carson, the Harbor area, San Pedro, all those cities around there. My parents are from Purépero, Michoacán. They came out here and had 5 kids, and I'm the youngest, so that's a little bit about where I come from. And like you said, I'm from the group called Spanish Fly. I can go deeper into that. I don't know if you want me to go into Spanish Fly or anything.
No, we're off to a good start. How old were you when you decided that you wanted to go into rap? How long has music been a part of your life, and at what point did you decide that you wanted to go and do rap?
Well, yeah, music's been a big part of my life. Like before I even did the rap thing, man, it's just, my family, they're all musicians. So, my brother was a bass player. My uncles were from a group called La Invasión, Mexican music. And so my brother was a drummer. So, music was always around in my household, you know what I mean? And my mom tells me I used to grab the mic and I would sing mariachi music and, you know what I mean? And all those songs and Cepillín and all kinds of shit like that when I was a kid. So right. My mom tells me, she's like, man, you just love, singing. And so I was sing at the time. Right. But yeah, so from all that, from mariachi music to Juan Gabriel and then, we get into later on my brothers with the funk and then the, classic rock and all that kind of music. So the rapping came a little later. I think I was 14 or 15 when I started getting into that.
And how did you get started? Did you just start writing? Were you freestyling with your boys? How is it that you slowly transitioned into rap from having an upbringing in a little variety of music into rap is what you want to focus on?
Yeah, well, before even like Spanish Fly, before we even created the group, like I said, hip hop was starting to really, you had the NWAs and that kind of thing where I grew up, but just that culture. We used to break dance, with the homies, and then DJing was real big. So me and the homeboy Tricks, there was a group, we had Chill Attractions. We were really into hip hop. We were hip hop kids, hip hop heads.
Yeah, hip hop heads.
Yeah, we were. A lot of the music, a lot of it was East Coast, and then I had Schoolie D that I really loved a lot of KRS-One. So it was a lot of East Coast rap too, and my homie Frank had a lot of records. My brothers had records, so we would just dig in the crates. And like I said, we were DJs, bro. And then obviously DJs and MCs. That's the beginning of hip hop. Is you got the DJ, you got the MC, rock camp, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like it came from the culture, just break dancing to DJing. And then, back then it wasn't even like, Spanish Fly Soy 18 with a bullet yet. It was just my homie S. Rich Rock and myself and Trick. We were just kind of like doing hip hop, man, DJing, learning.
And so you mentioned that was around like where you're maybe like, in your early teens that you started getting into that. At what point did Spanish Fly come about? And tell us a little bit about how the group formed.
Yeah, so, like I said, Frank, Tricks, we had a group called Chill Attractions where we were DJs and we used to DJ quinceañeras and all that kind of thing. And Rich Rock, I said Rich Rock was kind of like part of that. He was already rapping, hip hop stuff. So from that, I remember it was probably, we were going into high school, Carson High School, where I would hang out a lot with Frank, Tricks, and we used to go in his backyard. And like I said, my brothers had records. I'd take them over there. His dad had a collection of records. And then being there, making music, Rich Rock was there with us. And that's how kind of, I mean, it's hard to tell who thought of the name, which doesn't matter who brought it up first, but I remember, you know, Spanish Fly was the name we were toying with. And then we were coming up with different meanings of Spanish Fly, you know. I remember that, and that's how we came up with Spanish Foolish Local Youngsters. And then another thing was Spanish Fools Lighting Yesca. So those were the memories that I have, you know, be in the late 80s, early 90s, man, just being in my homie's room, his bedroom with turntables and records and just coming up with the group and all that kind of thing.
I'm really glad you mentioned that because, you know, homie, I didn't even know, to be honest with you, I didn't know FLY was an acronym for anything. I just thought it was just Spanish Fly, you know. I mean, I know it had definitely a deeper meaning to it, but I didn't realize you meant it as an acronym.
Yeah.
You said you had two acronyms. Can you mention those for me again? I didn't catch both of them.
Yeah, it was Spanish Foolish Local Youngsters. Obviously, we're a little older now, right? But
Right.
but we also had the other one, you know, so we could still, it was Spanish Fools Lighting Yesca.
Oh, Spanish Fools Lighting Yesca. That's right.
During that time, we were
They're both good, but I like the second one more. You know, I'm definitely a connoisseur myself.
I mean, you know, I know my homie Tricks, you know, because he probably won't like this, but I mean, the truth was his dad, man, smoked. We had weed plants, and we'd be in the back, you know, his backyard and taking his plants. And so at that time, we were all blazing and
Yeah.
and just, you know, getting really deep with the music, kind of like the Beatles and all that shit.
Yeah.
You know? All
Yeah.
into that whole vibe, man.
That's right. That's right. And so you guys started off as DJs and then transitioned into a group, Spanish Fly.
Mhm.
And, you know, you guys are definitely one of the pioneers, I think, of, you know, Chicano rap, Latin rap, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I think that you have a very special place in history in regards to that. How is it that you guys transitioned from just being maybe a local group to the bigger audience that we all, you know, you as? You know, how did you link up with maybe, you know, a larger label that picked you up and distributed your music, the way it developed and the way it was spread to the rest of the state and the country?
Well, with us, it was ground roots. You know what I mean? Like I always say, like you could be an instant success overnight, but then you're gone. Like it's always important to have roots. And for us, like I mentioned, the DJing and all that, we were already having a name within the hood, within Carson, Wilmington, that area, in the Harbor area. Everybody knew of our group. We DJ parties with other groups, and then Spanish Flies, same thing. But the way it came about, like I said, we'd be in the room, man, and we only had a 4-track recorder. We only had 2 turntables, Technique 1200s, a microphone, and records. And we did the whole album, which was called Trust No Man. We did it there on a 4-track. We put it together. We put it on a tape. The concepts we came up with, and then at Carson High School, there was a teacher, Murray Brumfield, who you've probably heard of him. He's the one that kind of had a big part in Familia Records was his label. He put out the first group under him, and then he started putting out a lot of artists, you know, that you and all these guys, right? So going to Carson High, you know, everybody's like, hey, that's Murray. You know, he has a record label. He had a record label called Kingswood Records at the time. So he was like the teacher where everybody, you know, you have that cool teacher. Oh, he's playing rap music. And we used to go in there, you know what I mean? So we go in there and a lot of guys, you know, Razzcast, he's the dope MC. He's from Carson, you know what I mean? And he was around there. So we'd all take him tapes and we took him the album. And man, right away, he was impressed. And if I'm not mistaken, the next day or that week, he took us to Paramount Studios in Hollywood to record that album. So that was how, you know, that album came about.
Wow, that's cool.
And then the single So 18 with a Bullet. I mean, like, to be honest, we were not on a major label. A lot of other Latinos or Chicano, whatever you want to call them, were on majors. We were not. We were ground roots, kind of like he slanging the tapes out of the trunk. That's what Murray did. So in a nutshell, how do we? It just happened. It was organic. That song took off, and it sold over. Shoot, I don't know. It might be gold now, but it was over 300,000 copies, and we were like 17 years old, in school.
Yeah, wow, that's huge. And talk about being, in my view, at the right place at the right time. Because I mean, you could have been going to any other high school or grew up in any other city. I mean, you just happened to be at the right high school where you had that cool teacher that was already into the music, into the hip hop, into the rap, and he saw your talent and was able to elevate you guys to the next level.
Right.
So after you guys released that album, uh, what happened after that in regards to like your career? What would you say was your next big career move for the group? From that first success of Spanish. I'm sorry, Soy 18 with the Bullet.
Yeah, it was Spanish Fly. It was the album was called Trust No Man, so 18 the Bullet. Yeah, so when that single came out, it made noise. I remember, and I don't know if I told the story, but back then there was a record store called Magic Disc Records. I think it was Magic Disc, and it was on Lomita, the city of Lomita. And one of the homies had told us, "Hey man, you gotta go. Hey homie, you gotta go to Lomita. You gotta go to that the music, whatever. I think I still have the tag on the record. Anyway, and they're like, man, the whole store. You know how they'd have little like I used to see it with Jay-Z CD. All you had was a Jay-Z album. I remember going to that store and seeing nothing but 18 with a bullet all over. And he went to the owner like, hey, these are those guys. And taking pictures with all that. So it was kind of like, whoa. It started taking off. And Murray, we started doing some shows up north. So we did a few shows and those kind of things. But it was tough at the time, man. You had the Norteños. It was crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe Frost was there. He performed. Frost. I can't remember some of the other groups, but we were there. And so we did a few shows. But it's almost like, it's funny because recently I found the flyer. I just found it. We were about to do a show during that time to open up for Cypress Hill. I have the flyer. And some stuff happened with their management. Some went down and we didn't end up doing the show. But if we would have done that show, I think we would have even been plateaued to a bigger stage. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. So kind of like with that group, it just, and we have a documentary out. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it talks a little bit about it. But it's kind of like as soon as we were there, it just kind of like, boom, things started happening, man.
And you're right. I mean, had you guys done that show, I think it definitely would have accelerated the trajectory you were already on. Because I mean, it didn't deter you, from doing music. Now, one thing that I did want to ask you was, so it seems like you were in high school, and if you want to, you can just go heavy into the music. Did you guys finish high school, or did you guys just continue with the music and just took off from there?
It's been a while. I mean, speaking for myself, I graduated from Carson High School. Big up to Carson. Frank, I think he went a continuation. Eagle Tree, I believe that's what it was called. And Rich Rock, oh man, I'm not sure if he graduated, man. But I did graduate. I graduated from Carson, and you know what I mean? And then just kept.
And I only asked that because I mean I know you continued with your education. That's something that I definitely want to touch on, because I think it's important for everybody, for the youth to be aware of your accomplishments and what can be done when you put your mind to it. We're gonna take a quick little break, and we'll be right back with Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.
Hit us up at 805-395-6595 for your special requests, dedications, and shout-outs. Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.
Cuba, and welcome back to Chicano Rap Radio. We're chopping it up with Chicano rap legend Ese Daz of Spanish Fly. We were talking about how he got into music at a young age. He transitioned into rap. He was heavy into the DJ scene. And then he joined or he formed Spanish Fly with two of his other homeboys, and how they happened to be at the right place at the right time, with the founder of Familia Records. They got deeper into the music, and they just went on this upward trajectory. One thing that we talked about when we left off was how you were able to even though you had, some success in the music, I would say, at a young age, you still followed with your education. You graduated high school. Tell us a little bit more about that and why you thought it was important to finish high school, even though you probably could have just dove heavy into the music.
During that time, I had two teachers, Murray Brumfield, who's the owner of Familia, and Mr. Neal. He was a horticulture teacher at the time on the elective class we used to have back then at
Right.
Carson. And they would always give me some messages. They would always say, hey, man, you know what? You're talented in the music. You could rhyme, you could DJ, but, you always got to have a backup plan. And then Mr. Neal, he would always tell me, hey, man, you know what? It's a funny story because it was an elective class and they used to throw all the desmadrosos in there. They used to fuck around.
Yeah.
And I was pretty chill, but there was some crazy gangsters in there. I was pretty chill. But
Yeah.
he used to draw, and I use this today. He would draw clouds like on the chalkboard, and then he'd draw pitchforks, right? And then he would call you out. Like you'd be doing some shit, and he'd be like, he used to tell me, all right, y'all know you're going up, just like that. And I would be like, what are you talking about? He'd be like, you're going up. And then he'd point at some other fool, you're going down. Basically saying, you know what, you got a good head on your shoulders. You can do more. And he would pull me to the side and say, hey, you know what? Have you ever thought about maybe one day helping kids? And then at the time I would be like, man, you're crazy. What do you mean helping kids? I didn't know what he was tapping into.
Right.
That was part of it. But the other part was seeing the rap game, in general, and seeing being a Chicano or Latino, whatever you want to call the rap game. To us, it was just hip hop. But I was just a Latino in hip hop, a Mexican.
Right. Yeah.
But at the time I was observing. I was looking at what's going on. Who has major labels? Look what's happening. How many shows are we having? And I kind of really knew, and we talk about it now. Even the rap, even if you want to call it Chicano rap game, where is it at? It's not even close. It's getting better, but it's still not where you would think it would be, right? So I already knew that. Like, I'm like, dude, this is going to take a long time to be a household name or to be a superstar. Like some of these guys out there, like the Easy
Right.
and all that, right? So I went to school, man. And then not only that, my family, my brother, he worked and all that, but my jefita, they were a little older, and, there was a lot of things that I had to take care of and help them out with. So I went to school. I enrolled in college and started going, bro. And it was funny because I remember I went to community college first, Cerritos College, and I would just be alone, like in the corner, dressed like a homie, kicking it in there, doing my work. And I chose a school far away because there was Harbor College in Wilmington, but it was like a high school, homie. All the homies, I fucking like school. I'm like, fuck that. I went away where nobody knew. You know what I mean? And I was
right. So you could focus.
Focused. And I ended up getting a master's degree. I have 2 credentials. I have a teacher credential and I have a counseling credential, which is a PBS credential. So that's kind of what motivated me to do that, because I started looking around and I'm like, this is going to take, a long time, like you to be a superstar. Some people can live off it, but it's also a grind and a hustle.
Yeah.
I kind of was like, you got to have a backup plan pretty much.
Right. And, I want to give you props for, at that young age, having the insight to, into what was going on as far as the rap industry, or as far as your place in rap, and still having the drive, the motivation, to continue with your education, which turned into you getting a master's degree and 2 teacher's credentials. Now, are you?
And then a counseling credential. There's 2 different ones.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah, you're right. And so, right now you're still actively involved with the youth, correct?
Right. Yeah, I'm a counselor for LAUSD in a city in Boyle Heights, man. Big ups to East Los and Boyle Heights. Big up to Hollenbeck. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm sure that I work with all those kids, man.
So do the kids, I imagine most of them know who you are, but the ones that don't, once they realize who you are just blown away? They just want to talk about music, once they know who you are?
You know what? It's interesting, man, because in 2008, where we'll talk about later, but I had a single called Something About You, and it really blew up. I mean, MTV Tres, it hit top 3. So when they say Latinos have never hit MTV Tres, we've done it.
Yeah.
I mean, so and I hit number 3, and I was being recognized. I go to the clubs and, hey, you're that one fool. And the kids, they knew. So I remember
Right.
during that time, they're like, hey, you signed this autograph, you signed that, you know what I mean? And so they did recognize, but at the same time, it made it a little harder for me because not just because now they see me as an artist, so they want to just chill, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Right.
hey, you know, and so I have to be professional. So
Right.
it
Right.
brought along its challenges as far as like getting them to buy into what I was trying to teach them. And
Right. Right. Yeah, and I see that you're right. You know, uh, I wasn't thinking how it would present other challenges. I mean, if anything, I thought it would make it easier for you. But now maybe they just want to talk about the music. They're no longer focusing on whatever it is that they were there in the first place. And so I think it's solid that you were able to transition into into getting your master's and giving back and helping out the youth and being a mentor. But you haven't let go of the music. I mean, how is it that you transitioned from Spanish Fly into a solo artist? And tell us a little bit about that as far as your path into becoming a solo artist.
yeah, well, I believe, I don't know if the year was maybe, I don't know if it was late 90s or 2000 or something. And, a lot of things happened with Spanish Fly. Like one of the homies, he kind of started doing Christian rap tricks, and then Rich Rock kind of, a lot of things happened in his life. And so we kind of like split up a little bit. And, but for me, I always had love of music. I didn't care whether you sold one record or win gold. To me, I just love to create. So I
Right.
continued to do it, and I created a new group. Spanish Fly, but I brought about new members. Fino, my homie, rest in peace, was a dope MC, and I put my nephew Ace in the group and Nick D, and so I kind of started that, and then I ended up meeting Kool-Aid and Edub, and they're from out there, right? Oh, Edub's from Oxnard, I believe,
Yeah.
and they're the ones, that's when that whole Pocos Pero Locos, they had their
Yeah.
show, and
On
I
Power
believe
106.
yeah, and I think Murray, if I recall, Murray Brumfield, man, met them. They were gonna do a radio show, from what I remember, they were. And so I went with Murray from Familia. I went to meet with them with Kool-Aid and Edub. And I think we met at a radio station. I can't remember. This is the first time I'm talking about this too. So, and then I met them there. And that's kind of where our relationship started a little bit. And then Edub, I think, reached out. And so, we started, he kind of talked about, he started talking about Pocos Pero Locos and his show, and then that he was going to make a label and that kind of thing. So that's how I kind of like, first we put out Spanish Fly. We did an album called Crimes of Agony out there with him, which had a song Loco Por Vida on there, and Smoker's Paradise, which got play on Power 106.
Right.
That's where the homie Johnny D. I actually, oh my bad, I put Johnny D in that group. He's a dope MC out of Wilmington. I'm working on his album right now, but he's part of that. And so we did that album, and then Dub and Kool-Aid, hey man, you should do a solo album, man. That during that time they were like, hey, there's a lot of opportunity. We need to create like Latino superstars, Chicano superstars for the youth to see. And I remember
Right.
like, man, you could be like a 50 Cent. They used to say all these kind of things, I'm like, hey man, this roll, So we started kind of that's how that came about. And then I did the single Something About You out there with them, and I had another single called She's Got It. And One Choice, One Life too that we did. Downs on that song from Oxnard.
Yeah. Yeah. Down. Shout out to the homie Down. He's one of the local favorites out here. I mean, we have a lot of talent out here in the 805. But he's definitely put it on. He's helped to spread not only the culture and the music, but also the local area. So, yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit on what you mentioned earlier, that it seemed to you like Chicano rap probably wasn't going to get its due, anytime soon. And I just want to get your take on that because I personally believe that there is something holding the door shut to us. Some people say that it's because of our content. Some people say that it's because of our behavior. But, to be quite honest with you, I mean, I completely disagree because there's other artists out there that talk about a lot of the same content, a lot about the same things, talk about being from the hood, talk about trapping or, dealing or whatever. and they're on mainstream. What's your take on that? Why do you think that is, that the industry accepts people from other backgrounds and they kind of keep the door shut to Chicanos or Latinos in general?
I think there's a few reasons. I don't think I could just pick one, in my opinion. I think, there's many reasons. Like I said, I think label execs are a big part of it. I think it's based on money. You know, um, if you take, let's just say, reggaeton versus Chicano rap, right? So you have, let's say, a Cardi B or a Bad Bunny compared to Spanish Fly or Little Rob or Down or whoever, right? Let's just say what revenues, what makes more money, right? Well, it's a no-brainer. It's economics. Like, reggaeton sells more music. I mean, they get played at the club. It's party music. Makes a whole lot of more money. So I think execs, they invest more that way. That doesn't mean that Chicano rap or Chicano rappers are not talented. I think the talent is there lyrically and creativity is there, but I think it doesn't make as much money as per se, let's say a reggaeton record, right, or reggaeton artist. So I think number one is money. We can always here and there you get like a song like, let's just say, Lean Like a Cholo, which takes off and does well, right? But if you look at that record, you're gonna see that it's a party track, right? It's not lyrical. It's pretty simple lyrics, but it's catchy and it caught on. It worked, But for the most part, it's reggaeton makes a whole lot of more money. Um, Number two, I think is status quo. I don't think Chicano rap is the it thing to do, and that's no disrespect. I just say that. The reason I say that is because let's say times I would ask some of the students that I work with, hey, who do you listen to? It's rarely a Chicano rapper. It's like a mainstream artist. But again, it doesn't mean that Chicano rap is not the talent is not there. It's just they don't know about it. It's not the it thing to do. They're doing other things. I think another thing is ourselves. I think pride. Like I mentioned, in the '90s, a lot of us we didn't work together. We kind of hated on each other, and I think that hurts us. Even though now I see a lot of artists collaborating more, even that kind of thing. But perfect example again, let's say a Chicano or a Mexicano wants to make a reggaeton record, and let's say he makes one and it does really well. What do our own people do? We hate on it, right? We're like, oh, that shit's whack. What the fuck is that? We don't do reggaeton. So I think a lot of that, plays into that. Why Chicano rap is not where we want it to be. And I think another reason too is generational gaps, like Mexican Americans, being a Mexican, like my family, like my tios and my aunts and uncles and all that, even my parents rap. I mean, they have their own music, they got mariachi music, they have corridos, they have, their own artists, like their own music, Mexican music, right? So to them, rap is like, the hell is rap? Black people make rap. So in the '90s, growing up making rap music, um, they didn't accept it. They didn't support it. Let's just say they weren't all into it, right? They had their own music. They're kind of like looked down on it, like, oh, why you do rap? That's not for us. That's what black people do. So I think race comes into play with that. With when you talk about Chicano rap and our gente, right? Like those are the things that I feel come into play and why Chicano rap or you don't see those superstars or those artists get there. Um, but those aren't my reasons why. I think that we haven't seen it. But again, it doesn't mean that the talent's not there, because since the '90s, since we were coming out, our talent was there. Spanish Fly, Frost, like lyrically, the talent has always been there. It's not nothing new. But I think these reasons that I mentioned, you know, all come into play. Why Chicano rap is not up there. And then you know, um, maybe the people in power, they don't want Chicano rap to be the it thing or the mainstream thing. Maybe it's not meant to be mainstream. You know, um, it's maybe that music is not appealing to the mainstream. So you got to think about those things. And that's okay. If Chicano rap is not meant to be at the top, who cares? We have our own music and people listen to it. But those are the reasons why I think it hasn't got to the level where we wish or people want it to be.
And you did mention something that is true, to a big extent, which is there's a little bit of the culture that some people, want to be first. They want to be the first superstar, and they might keep other people down. But there are, and I see this more now. There is definitely a lot more collaboration. In regards to your music, who are some of the artists that you worked with that showed you love and you were able to collaborate with, and you guys put out some dope songs? Tell us, a little bit of some of the artists that you've worked with, and you guys, were able to come together and put some good music out.
Let me think back, because you're right. That was a real big problem. A lot of people that want to collab. I know Down, we collabed on that song. He was on my record. I was supposed to be on his album, but who knows what happened. I don't know, maybe the label just, but that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
But much love to Down, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I put him on my record. We did it. It did really well. And then, he did Lean Like a Cholo, and I'm happy for his success. I did on the video that I did something about you. He wasn't on that record, but he was supportive. He was in the video, which is Sinful from the Mexicans, who's another dope, Latino Chicano MC, Mexican MC. He was on there. There's some songs that I collab with. I mean, Chino Grande reached out to me back in the day, and I did a record with I don't know if it's Charlie Ro Campo. I got on some music with them. Who else?
That's right.
Collabo? Well, I did a record with Daz from the Dog Pound. That was pretty cool to do. But other than that, as far as like Chicanos, I did back then. I did reach out to some. I'm not gonna say no names. A lot of them never got back to me, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think you're right. I think now these new artists, and I got to give them credit. I see them, doing a little more work together, which I'm impressed, and I like that these new generation of Chicano rappers are doing that. But that's what used to happen, and to me, it's like, you can still get back to people. You know what I mean? Like, it's about respect. Like if I ain't gonna work something, I'll get back to you and be professional about it, not just. And I think that's part of the whole culture, though. Like just respond and say, yeah, you know what? Because not every artist is gonna mesh together. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but you can still let them know, like, hey, homie, you know what? Boom, 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 or whatever we can.
Yeah.
We can't do. This record might not fit me, but hey, guess what? Let's get down on something else. I'll help you with this. I'll promote your record, or I'll do this. And I think I see more of that now. And back then they'd probably be like, man, fuck this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's our own generation's fault. I'll take that. I mean, I really didn't do that. I collaborated. Oh, Mexicans, another group that I collaborated with out of San Pedro. Mox, you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but there was just a few. I didn't really collaborate with many. There was a record that was done with Little Rob, much up to Little Rob. Edub was responsible for that we did. It's called Can You Remember? We did that record, so much love to him.
Can't you remember? Yeah, I've heard that one. It's a sick jam.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're definitely one that is willing to work with other artists, has worked with other artists, with regardless of whatever background they have, whether they're Black or they're Chicano or whatever. But your music, and I just wanted to add that you could function without any of those features, without any of those artists, because your music is powerful within itself. I want to touch on that a little bit more. We're going to take another quick little break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about a little bit more about some of the songs that you've put out, or some of the projects that you're working on now, or anything that we can expect coming up, from Ese Daz. You're listening to Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.
Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.
Welcome back to Chicano Rap Radio. We've been chopping it up with the homeboy Ese Daz, one of the Chicano rap legends, one of the originals in the industry. We've been talking about, how he got into the music, how he developed, as an artist, how he continued his education and is currently giving back to the youth as a counselor, but he still hasn't let go of his love for the music. And, I actually wanted to touch on that. Tell us a little bit of your current projects, because you haven't stopped recording, you haven't stopped, producing and putting out music. Tell us what you're working on now, as far as the music is involved, on your own personal projects, because I know you're working with other artists, but what are you working on for yourself?
Yeah. So, like you're right. During that time, even after the Spanish Fly, I released a few solo projects. But currently, yeah, I have that Spanish Fly, that the reintroduction that's out right now, which is featuring my boy Johnny D and Amines and the homie Moxo Mexiclan. So I got that out right now. We have a video. It's called I Came I Saw. It got good reviews on the Latin Beast, and so that's out currently, on iTunes. There's a single La Politica we just released that's out. There's another one called The Crown with Diamonique, the female MC. She's dope.
Diamonique. She's
Yeah.
from the IE, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Diamonique. She I don't know if she still what she was with out of the
Fingers
she was
Camp.
with Fingus. Yeah.
Yep.
Streetlight Records, or what was Streetlight Records back in the day. So that's solid that she's still out there working. You guys recently put out a song. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. She's on the album. Well, I did a remix and it's called The Crown. So on the album, it's not on there, but we released it as a single, and it has featuring Diamonique. So that's out. And then oh yeah, I gotta mention, I have a solo album that was out a few years ago called The Prince of the Harbor Area. That's also out. You might want to check that out on iTunes. But yeah, so that single's out. La Politica, like I mentioned, was out, and currently right now I'm working on Johnny D's new album. So
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
What's the concept? If you can tell us, what's the concept of the album, and when can we expect a release?
Well, right now, as far as the concept of the album, we're still kind of, talking, Johnny and myself, because a lot of times I like to let the artist kind of dictate too. So I want them to have a lot of input. I'm doing all the production. As far as concept, we're still talking about which direction he wants to go with. But the first single is called Press the Line, and it'll be out soon. And that one is touching on right now, like from the coronavirus to these police brutality of the shootings we've been seeing, so he touches on a lot of those topics, bro. So it's a pretty dope record. It's a little different, but so that should be coming out soon. Press the Line, man. Johnny D.
Press the Line. Johnny D, definitely. We're going to keep an eye out for that. And when it comes out, we'll definitely put it in the rotation. I think it's good that, some rappers are still touching on social issues, because, I think, coming from the hood, you definitely want to represent, you want to be real, you want to be true, and most of the music, you're able to do that. But I think every now and then I've always kind of considered, or at least myself, kind of like a historian, where I do want to, capture some of the things that are going on in our time now, current events for the future, for the youth, or whoever's going to listen to it through our eyes, through our perspective. Tell me a little bit about La Politica. What's the concept of that song, and how did that come about?
Yeah, La Politica is the latest single for Spanish Fly, and when I made that beat, it just sounded like like you can get political with that beat, talk about it. And it's basically about hood politics and all the drama that comes within, within being in the hood and the politics of the hood and the difficulties that come with it, the drama, and that kind of thing, and, the jealousy, the envy within ourselves and with the raza or with anyone, and it means does a good job in the second verse of talking about he puts himself in Nipsey Hussle's shoes, and he kind of takes you through that horrible day and what happened, and he does a good job of going through all that, and so that's what it's kind of about. It's kind of about hood politics, like I said, and we all go through it in different ways, and so like I said, regarding the jealousy, the envy, the haters within your own neighborhood, who don't want to see you do well, and sometimes it becomes your demise, unfortunately. But yeah, that's what La Politica is about.
I get the desire to want to get put on. I get the desire to want to go mainstream. And I think sometimes people do that at the expense of who they are as an individual, as an artist, but people like yourselves, people like Nipsey are able to stay true who you are, and still love what you like to do, without giving up any of your integrity, or kind of maybe losing some of your core fans. What can we expect from Ese Daz in the next couple of months? Well, what should we be looking out for? Any kind of videos, any kind of singles, any upcoming albums that are in the pipelines or in the works?
Yeah. Right now, expect like I said, Johnny D's new album coming out. The Press the Line will be the first single. Expect a video with that. Right now, as far as my own, I just kind of been focusing a lot on the production. I just got a new love for just being in the studio, bro, meditating, just coming up with,
Yeah.
production and mixing. I like engineering. And so um, I've been kind of getting the itch to do another solo album. And maybe after all this, I
Yeah.
will. I like to, I like to kind of help others, man. And Johnny
Right.
D is
Right.
not only a dope artist, but he's a good friend of mine, and
Right.
you can rarely say that in this game, like you got to really be a critical thinker, like who's who. And he's a friend of mine and a dope artist, and I really, really want to help him put out his album because I think he's talented. That and then another Spanish Fly album, and also I got a clothing line, a Spanish Fly Originals clothing brand. Be on the lookout for that.
And if someone wants to follow you on Instagram, give us your IG.
It's a 110 South Spanish Fly on IG.
110 South Spanish Fly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, that's right. Well, definitely, keep an eye out for the homie. He's been doing a lot of, a lot in not only in the music but also giving back to the community. He's been doing this for a very long time and will continue to do this for a very long time. Is there any kind of any last words, that you want to leave the listeners with, as far as any kind of advice for any upcoming artist or anybody out there? Put your counselor hat on. What would you be, telling some kind of youth right now at the crossroads of what to do with their lives, something positive, something uplifting?
Well, I mean, it's I would always say just work hard, never give up, but at the same time, like I tell my students, you got to be a critical thinker. I think we're living in a time, especially now, where you have to analyze, you have to understand the connection of things that are happening. You know what I mean? Where these ideas are coming from and why, regardless if it's in the music or in the world. Because right now, I think we're at a time where it's bigger than rap. Like there's a lot of things happening around us,
Mm-hmm.
and as a youngster, whether you're getting into music or not, like you got to ask yourself, what are you doing this for? Like, what's your message? What is your people going to get out of it? Your gente, like how are they going to benefit from this? Because I think that's the thing, so always be true to yourself, and just be a critical thinker of what you do.
That's right. That's right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's very important. It is a very powerful message. Being a critical thinker means you question things around you. It also means that you learn the skills on how to solve the problems around you without, you're not always going to have someone there to tell you how to get out of a problem. But if you're a critical thinker, you can sit back, look at the situation, look at the bigger picture, and hopefully find some sort of solution or answer from that reflection. So thank you for sharing that with us. I wanted to say thank you for making the time to join us. Thank you for inspiring many generations of not just people that listen to your music, but also the youth that you're working with, as a counselor. uh, and it's been an honor to have you on Chicano Rap Radio. We'll definitely have you back for round two, because I know you have a lot of material to give. So thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. Give me the websites one more time, just in case anybody missed them, because the clothing brand is I think it's important for anybody who is an OG Spanish Fly fan.
Yeah, it's Spanish Fly Original Clothing Brand .bigcartel.com. I also have my website, esedaz.com, IG 110 South Spanish Fly, YouTube, Daz 110 South Spanish Fly. So those are the places where you can find me, and find the music. Like on esedaz.com, you can find all the old stuff too, the Trust No Man album, from the beginning of Spanish Fly to my solo albums. Yeah, and you know what? I want to thank you, man, and just Chicano Rap and yourself for having me on here. It's been an honor to be a part of this, bro, and I appreciate you.
Likewise, brother. Likewise. Much love from us, and we wish you the best. And like I said, we'll definitely have you back. Thank you so much for your time. You're listening to Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.
Chicano Rap Radio, raw and uncut.